First, we talked about Mars. Then, we talked about Saturn. Now it's time to talk about the planetary power associated with that goddess on the mountaintop, burning like a silver flame at the summit of beauty and love. Venus is her name. I am Dave, the Amateur Magus. On this channel, I talk about the mechanics behind ceremonial magic, occultism, general esotericism, and how to practice better magic. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the planetary power of Venus. If you'd like to support what I do here, feel free to subscribe, and there is a Patreon link down in the description down below. Back to the material girl of astrology, shall we? The planetary power of Venus is associated with love, beauty, art, and magically speaking, she is most often used and utilized in love spells of a variety of sorts. Her number on the Kabbalistic Tree of Life is 7, and she rules over the zodiac signs of Taurus and Libra, which are the signs of beauty and personal relationships, respectively. She is in detriment in her lover Mars's signs of Aries and Scorpio, the sign of explosive beginnings and mysterious goth girls, respectively. She is in fall in Mercury's sign of Virgo and exalted in Jupiter's sign of Pisces. So she is in fall in the analytical editing / efficiency sign, and she is exalted in the sign of music and dreams. Which does lead to, yes, love songs, as long as they are divinely inspired, are considered Venus exalted art. Unless they're mass-produced and pumped out via an algorithm, then they become Venus in fall. Funny how that works, isn't it? Magically speaking, Venus is often for manifesting in love spells, and when you're looking for money for nothing. Or otherwise just trying to attract things into your life in general, beneficial things primarily. This is the lesser benefic planet, which is going to be why we're going to be using Venus. We're going to be using Venus to pull in good things, which is very advantageous. We want to push away bad things, which we would use Mars for. We use Mars to banish, and we use Venus to invoke things. Now this is the push and pull respectively. Mars is going to push, Venus is going to pull. Now, we want to assume that everyone wants to attract things, and who doesn't want to attract things magically speaking? I mean, everyone wants to attract money and love into their life. Well, why wouldn't you want to attract everything into your life? Why wouldn't you want to attract good things into your life constantly? And here is where we get into the negative aspects of Venus, because Venus can be just as, if not more, destructive than the planetary power of Mars. Mars will leave physical scars, but Venus will leave emotional scars. I know a lot of people enjoy it when I talk about my experiences magically speaking, so let's talk about my experiences magically speaking. A long time ago, I decided that my relationship with the planetary power of Venus could use some work, so I decided that every day for a month, I would invoke the planetary power of Venus. Now, this was not just a every Friday situation, like a lot of people are going to assume. This was every single day, as part of my daily practice, I invoked the planetary power of Venus. Now, my assumption here was that my life would become more Venus-y. It would make me more attractive. It would bring love into my life. It would bring money into my life. I would have all these different things coming in. So Venus brought those things into my life, and it was great, right? Fuck no. Not at all. In fact, Venus blew up every toxic relationship around me. If people were in a toxic relationship and they were tangentially around me, it blew up. I had people coming into my life as new friends who were in toxic relationships. I didn't know this at the time, and then I find out that it happened, and I find out that they're breaking up with their significant others willy-nilly. This happened on 4 separate occasions. And I can safely say that every toxic relationship that was in my circle of friends was gone. Did Venus bring new love into my life? No. Did Venus bring more money into my life? Also no. Did she do anything I expected her to do? No. This operation came to a conclusion at the end where I was told by the powers of Venus, you can stop now, we're not going to do anything else. Like, this is just useless to you at this point. So I stopped and then proceeded to have a good couple of months where I had to effectively sort out my social life and my circle of friends because they had all gone through massive fucking breakups with every toxic relationship and every person that they weren't compatible with, which was a blast, by the way. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, Dave, you did something wrong, right? Clearly you fucked up your operation. Clearly you fucked up. Venus would never do that. Venus is the nice planet who gets people into relationships. And that is a very astute and very surface level examination of what the planetary power of Venus does. So, does the planetary power of Venus always 100% get people into relationships? No, if you're not capable of being in a relationship, you're not going to be blessed by the powers of Venus. Likewise, if you are not capable of being in a healthy relationship, you will also not be blessed by the powers of Venus, because that just generates hate instead of love, and Venus is one of the planetary powers who is very keen on love. The most keen, as it were. Venus is all about love. That being said, Venus is all about pathos and passion and pain. Venus has a lot of things going with them. They're all about the sensations of feeling, the sensations of love, luxury, beauty, all of that kind of thing. That being said, Venus is not without her thorns. The incense of Venus is a rose. Every rose has its thorns. So Venus can be just as painful as Mars. If you accidentally try to hold a rose the wrong way, you will get stabbed. But there is more. I mentioned that Venus is the material girl of the zodiac, and that was only half joking, because this video has been filled with musical references, as I'm sure some of you have picked up on. But what I mean by that is Venus is the material girl of the zodiac because Venus wants things. Venus is one of the 3 Earth-ruling planetary powers, the other 2 being Saturn, which is so Earth correspondent that its tarot card of the world also corresponds to the element of Earth, and the other one being Mercury with Virgo. But of these 3, Venus is a little bit different because Venus rules Taurus, which is the densest Earth sign. What's more, Venus is kind of unique in that Venus is the only planet of the 7 traditional planetary powers that has a traditional planet exalted in both of its signs. Those being the moon in the sign of Taurus and Saturn, which is the least easy to get along with planet, in the sign of Libra. But Venus ruling over Taurus is kind of interesting because Venus ruling over Taurus really does demonstrate and explain why Venus rules over the material. Venus rules over beauty, art, physicality, and in this regard, Venus also rules over all of the, the most physical things. You know, you think of the sign of Taurus, your mind is immediately drawn to gigantic, luxurious beds, massive fluffy pillows, really nice steaks, a bunch of art in the house, massive amounts of jewelry. Can't forget the jewelry. But the other sign of Libra cannot be understated as well, because Libra is kind of Libra is interesting. I will, as an Aries, often joke that Libra is the sign of people who cannot make up their fucking mind. I make this assumption because it is unlike the sign of Pisces, which has too many goddamn ideas. But in this regard, the sign of Libra is definitely unique because it is really the lovers and the diplomatic sign. Now, of the 3 air signs, Libra is correspondent to one-on-one communication and one-on-one relationships. This is contrasted by Gemini, which is the sign of communication in general, as well as juxtaposed by Aquarius, which is the sign of relationships with groups. If it's a one-on-one relationship, it's going to be a Libra-style relationship. It's a partnership, if you would, which is obviously the thing that Libra corresponds to. Libra corresponds to one-on-one relationships. It is the equalizer between the 2 partners, and it is the sign of compromise. And this very much is something that Libra does. Now, there is one elephant in the room. You need to compromise in order to get a relationship working, because if you just don't compromise and you don't, establish the rules of a relationship, you're just not going to have a relationship. But Venus is also one of the fiery planets. Venus is interesting in that the Kabbalistic Tree of Life assigns Venus to the sphere of Netzach, which is one of the fire signs. And on this regard, we get to go back to the intro where I said that she's burning like a silver flame, because in order to get love and get a relationship to work, you need to, much like a burnt offering, sacrifice things on the altar of love in order to get the relationship to function. Is this an incredibly flowery way of saying you need to both compromise and both give up things in order to get the relationship to work, in order to get love? Yes. I have been Dave, the Amateur Magus. This has been the video on the planetary power of Venus. I hope you enjoyed. I'm available for consultations and astrology readings. Contact me on Instagram or Patreon for more information. I have been Dave, the Amateur Magus. Hope you're having a good day. If you're not having a good day, hope your day gets better. Take it easy.